So I'm in the greenhouse today, just potting on my early peppers, and they're looking really quite nice. Last year I let them get a bit pot bound, to be honest, and this year I've been a little bit more, well, on the ball, I guess. And so I'm potting them on when they're nice, stocky little plants like this. Good amount of leaf on them, good root system development, but not sort of at the point where as I say, they're kind of, the roots are all sort of tangled up and all of that sort of thing. So I've got, what have I got there? 24 peppers to pot on, and I'm potting them on into these big trays here. These are the trays that I normally use for my lettuces over winter in the greenhouse, and they just fit perfectly, these square 1 litre pots, 11 centimetre pots I think they are. So I just make a little depression in these pots with my fingers, and you can just drop these in nicely. So yeah, it's a nice quick process potting on. And so what I really wanted to talk about is not so much the potting on part, as I say, because there's really very little to that. What I want to talk about is what I'm going to do now. So actually just my next batch of peppers, they're just starting to break surface, and I've just grown those, germinated those on a windowsill above a radiator. So it's quite warm there, but it still takes them sort of 10 to 12 days to germinate. But I don't use propagators or anything like that. I don't have a propagator actually. And they grow just fine. So these are going to stay in these little pots until April, hopefully, beginning of April. And then they're going to go on this little grow bench here in their final pots. So they'll be potted on to a bigger pot, probably something like a 15 litre or a 20 litre pot, something like that. And I'll need all of this grow bench, and I'll pull this bench out, and I've got another grow bench underneath it will go along there. So both of these grow benches are under these grow lights, and so I will be able to give them a little bit of supplementary light, because in April it's a little bit, light levels are a little bit too low for early peppers, and day lengths are a little bit too low for early peppers. So I want to bump the day length up to about the day length that you get in June. So I don't know exactly what that is, but I'll put it up on the screen. And I want to make sure that this greenhouse at that point is about 10 degrees centigrade. So the grow lights won't be on all the time. They'll just be on between the difference between whatever the day length is at the beginning of April. Let's say it's 14 hours. And let's say what they want is the day length of June, which let's say is 16 hours. So the grow lights will only be on for sort of 2 to 4 hours, just to bump up the light intensity a little bit and the day length a little bit. Because what I always try and do is grow early crops with the same conditions that they would enjoy in nature, but at the optimum time. So obviously you wouldn't have peppers this big in nature at this time of year. So I'm just trying to tweak the conditions in this greenhouse to make them the same as the natural conditions at an optimum time. And the optimum time for a pepper to grow is in that sort of middle of June through to sort of August sort of weather conditions, for then sort of non-fruiting growth. So I'm hoping to start harvesting these towards the end of May. So that period, April to the are you getting confused by this? That period from the April to the end of May is kind of going to be the equivalent of June through to the end of August, if you get me. So that's what I'm going to do, and of course I'll clear all this bench by then. It will have potatoes on it actually up until April, then the potatoes will go down on the floor. I'm not sure how many of these peppers, because I've got 24 of them, I'm not sure how many will stay in this greenhouse once we get into summer proper. I'll probably move a lot of them outside to go around these walls, partly because it just looks really decorative to have lots of peppers outside, partly because they just grow really well outside, provided they've got the shelter of a wall to sort of protect them, and the extra heat that's stored up during the day and then given back to the plants at night from the wall, radiating and convecting heat. Right, so let me just interrupt myself for a second, because I just wanted to show you the comparison between these peppers, which were sown on the same day as these peppers, and the difference between the two is that these were kept in this greenhouse, which has been frost free, so they haven't died, but they haven't grown anywhere near as much as these peppers, which were in the house under grow lights and in the conservatory, where it's always above 10 degrees centigrade. So you can see a substantial difference between the growth rate and the sort of health of these two batches of peppers. I don't really know what would happen with these peppers, but I'm going to keep on growing them just by way of comparison. But if you want to know more about how to grow peppers, look after them, all the timings and all that sort of thing, then do take a look down below at my ebook. There's an individual growing guide all about how to grow peppers and chili peppers that you can find in there. So I do my early peppers in the greenhouse, and I do all of my main crop peppers under low tunnels on the allotment, and obviously I do a lot more under low tunnels than I do in the greenhouse, because the greenhouse is a very expensive space and the low tunnels are a very cheap space. So and they actually do really well under low tunnels as well. So yeah, take a look at that guide if you want. Let's get back to the video. So anyway, that's kind of the approach. So that's my early peppers. So there's not a lot to it. I've got 4 different varieties, and I've got some chili peppers as well. We don't grow a lot of chili peppers, but my objective really is just to have lots of colours. So I've got red ones, orange ones and yellow ones, 2 different varieties of yellow ones, and I'll put them up down the screen so you can see what they're like, and I'll show you where they're going to go once I've finished potting them on in the greenhouse. And they're going to enjoy it under grow lights at the conservatory, basically, for 6 weeks, basically. And yeah, looking pretty good. Very happy with them. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.